The introduction of the standard plus and prime classification for BTO flats in the second half of 2024 completely changed the game for aspiring homeowners. Among these, the 10-year MOP for plus and prime flats has gained a lot of attention. And with the government's past statement that by 2030, 8 in 10 households will live within a 10-minute walk of a train station, many people are now wondering whether that implies that the majority of the new HDB BTO flats will either be a plus or a prime project. So, is the longer wait worth the potential benefits? Let's talk about the pros and cons. And I will also cover what are the special conditions where you can get approval to sell your flat before the 10-year MOP ended. Let's start with the downside of purchasing a plus or a prime flat. The first downside that many people haven't realized yet is that it will impact their ability to upgrade to a condo in the future. This is because you'll have a shorter loan tenure next time, while at the same time, you also can't rent out the whole flat even after MOP. Let's discuss this using an example. Let's say that a couple bought a plus BTO project and they are both 30 years old. Assuming the construction time is 5 years and it's another 10 years to finish the MOP, that means they will be 45 years old by the time they can sell their HDB flat. Let's say you want to finish all of your condo mortgage loan by 60 years old. That means that the loan tenure for your next property will be 15 years. But the shorter tenure year will also mean higher monthly installments. And remember that you won't be able to rent out the whole HDB flat even after MOP for plus and prime flats. Although on paper, the Singapore government is increasing the retirement age to 65 and the employment age to 70 by 2030, it's going to be difficult to maintain the same level of income as you grow older. If we look at the median gross monthly income statistics, we can see that for most people, their income level is at its peak at 40 to 44 years old. However, it gradually goes down afterward. The decline is even more extreme after 55 years old. According to another statistics, older workers aged 50 and above form the higher share of retrenchments regardless of their occupation. This was followed by those in their 40s. If you combine both numbers, that means a whopping 69% share of retrenchment. It will be very scary if you get retrenched and stuck with a high mortgage loan that you can't pay while at the same time struggling to find a new job. I'm not saying that it's impossible to upgrade to a condo, but you just have to be more careful with your financial calculations before making the jump. The next downside is subsidies recovery, aka clawback. If you are buying a plus or a prime flat, don't forget that the government will claw back some of the subsidies that they gave you when you resell the flat. Obviously, this will eat into your profit, but you just need to calculate it carefully with your seller's agent to make sure that you can still earn a decent amount of profit that you deem appropriate. Personally, if I have the financial means to choose between plus or prime project, I would go for the prime project. The restrictions are almost similar, but historically, HDB projects in central areas sell at a much higher price. So hopefully, even with the subsidy clawback, the majority of the proceeds still go into your pocket. Another downside with plus and prime flat is that it will be more difficult for you to adjust your housing situation due to life stage changes. If you have young kids and your flat doesn't have a nearby primary or secondary school within 2 kilometers, this can be a problem. As you know, in Singapore, school admission still takes the distance between home to school into consideration. So you definitely need to research and ensure there are a good amount of schools around the vicinity before applying for a BTO project. This is important because some BTO projects still have nearby preschools and primary schools, but don't have any nearby secondary schools. I know that some parents actually plan their housing strategy depending on which good school they want their child to enter. But with a 10-year MOP, that will be tough. Another risk is, what if you have more occupants in the house than expected? Let's say your parents or any extended family need to stay with you long-term due to unforeseen circumstances, or you have an oops baby and end up with more kids than planned, for example. The flat that you originally bought might all of a sudden feel too small. The next downside I can think of is that you might have to endure difficult situations. 10 years is a very long time, especially if you are not happy. If you happen to have a neighbor from hell, or facing the expressway, or facing the dumpster, or you might change job location, etc., you're pretty much stuck in the flat at least for a decade. Since you are not allowed to rent out the whole flat even after MOP, that will limit your options. Either you need to sell your house after MOP, or be patient and try to resolve whatever issue you might have with the house or with the neighbors. But of course, not all are doomed. There are positive sides that come with a plus or a prime flat. The first positive aspect of plus and prime flats is the location. Plus flats are located in desirable spots across Singapore. It might not be near the CBD, but it's usually near an MRT station and amenities. This means a plus flat could be located in Woodlands or even in Punggol as long as the location is considered to be convenient. Prime flats go a step further, where they are located in prime central locations such as Red Hill, Toa Payoh, Queenstown, etc. Usually, these flats have higher potential property value in the long run. Think about the kind of HDB flats that can sell for over $1 million. I tried to do a rough calculation using home calculators online, and it seems like even with the $14,000 income ceiling for the potential resale buyers, you might still be able to sell the flat for above $1 million. Of course, that is assuming it's in a great location, on a high floor, in a great condition, etc. The next positive point is something that not many people talk about, which is the higher BTO chances. Looking at several prime flat launches recently, if you notice, the application rate is not as high as it used to be. Let's look at the December 2023 BTO application rate for 4-room flats. As you can see, the application rate for Bishan Sin-Ming residences is 3.2. Even Woodlands Beacon and Urban Rise application rate is 2.1, but the application rate for a 4-room flat for Alexandra Peaks at Bukit Merah is only 0.8, while Ulu Pandan Vista at Queenstown is only 0.6. The key difference is both Alexandra Peaks and Ulu Pandan Vista were launched as prime flats. So it seems that all of the restrictions that come with a prime flat really did deter some segments of the population, hence the softer demand. If this trend continues, this might mean you can have less competition if you apply for a plus or prime flat. At least until the market get used to the 10-year MOP and other rules, then after that, they might flock to any project that is in a good location again. Another edge that the plus and prime flats have is the enhanced subsidies. Since they are located in more desirable areas, naturally the historical prices in those areas are relatively high. To even the playing field, the government is giving more subsidies for plus and prime flats to ensure they remain affordable. Note that, however, some of those subsidies will be clawed back when you sell the flat in the open resale market after MOP. The next positive side of the new HDB classification is that it does curb speculation and hopefully moderate the HDB resale prices, at least in the long run. We can get into a whole debate on why the new classification doesn't apply to the existing HDBs and is only implemented for new BTO launched after mid-2024, but that's a separate discussion. The longer MOP discourages flippers who don't really need affordable housing but just want to quickly resell it after MOP to make some profit. And it's not just the longer MOP that serves as a break. Plus and prime flats also come with restrictions on ceiling income for the resale buyers of $14,000. Couples who are both PRs cannot buy, and condo downgraders under 55 years old now has to wait for 15 months before trying to enter the HDB market. With all of these measurements in place, the expectation is that the HDB prices will be moderated. If you are concerned about the 10-year MOP, you might be wondering, is there a way to sell your HDB flat before the MOP ends? The answer is actually yes. You can appeal to HDB by using e-form on their website. The decision will be fully up to HDB and they will review case by case. So, it's very important for you to share any relevant document that can support your application. But just note that according to online forums, for those who have tried to apply for an exception, the review time can take 6 months to 1 year. So, you need to consider whether you still want to try to get an exception or just wait it out until the MOP has ended. And do note that selling your HDB before MOP doesn't necessarily mean you are allowed to sell in the open market. There are situations where you need to sell back the flat to HDB, which means that most likely you cannot count on gaining a profit. In general, here are some of the situations that typically get excused. Number 1 is divorce. This tends to form the majority of the reasons for needing to sell the flat before the MOP. Both you and your spouse will be allowed to sell the house and then divide the proceeds. Alternatively, one spouse can take over the other spouse's half, assuming they can meet all of the criteria. You can contact HDB using the e-form and share your divorce documents. Number 2 is the inability to pay your home loan. This is typically in cases where the sole breadwinner of the family is unable to earn money due to death or disability. HDB may sometimes allow families to sell their flat prematurely. Number 3 is bankruptcy. If you can prove that you will be bankrupt unless you sell your flat, HDB might allow you to do so. Number 4 is terminal illness. This will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and obviously you will need to provide your medical records and statement letter from your doctor. Number 5 is the loss or renouncement of citizenship. For example, if you're planning to move abroad permanently, HDB may give their permission for you to sell your house earlier. If you give up your citizenship, you'll also be able to get your CPF money back. If you don't want to deal with this 10-year MOP, you can still buy the standard older resale HDB that was launched prior to mid-2024 because they still have the typical 5-year MOP. If you want to know how to buy a resale HDB flat without an agent, click the link in the description box below as I have discussed it in previous video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!